Organizations can no longer rely on the old school 9 to 5 in the office old way of doing things, because we're leaving behind a lot of talent on the table. We're leaving behind women who are impacted by the unforgiving schedules of the she session. These are all signs that things need to change. How many more signs do we need before we listen as leaders and are heard as employees? Organizations have a growing responsibility to be more involved than they've been in the past. I mean, hey, we are all in this together. We have to serve employees as much as employees serve us. So, let's listen, decentralize job descriptions so that everyone gets what they need, co-create the environment and culture so that all of our needs can be served. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is DeAndre French, and I am joined here by best-selling author and two-time TEDx speaker, Natalie Bruner. We're here to actually promote her book, The Promotion Blueprint. Natalie, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. We were supposed to have this last week, but now we're here. Everything is all good. Let's talk a little bit about your book, but first I want to introduce you right there. As you can see on the graphic, Natalie has so much experience. She's worn so many different hats in her industry. She's dealt with children. She's been in senior leadership. She's, been a CEO, but she's also got the chance to see the full experience of climbing that corporate ladder. So today's episode is going to be a lot more about making sure that we're providing direct insight. So what we're going to do is discuss if you are someone that is working at a grocery store, or you're working at a store, anywhere that you are that has a corporate structure, we're going to make sure that we give you all the tips to be able to scale from the bottom to the top. First thing I want to do before we get into that, is something we call...
Attention, insiders. It's time for rapid-fire wisdom. 60 seconds, high-stakes questions, and expert-level intel. The clock is ticking. Let's begin.
All right. What's your go-to comfort food after a long day at work?
Ice cream.
Okay. If you could listen to only one genre of music while working, what would it be?
Honestly, hip-hop.
Okay. You're hosting a dinner party. What's the first dish you'd serve to impress your guests?
Some kind of appetizer, probably some cheese and some chocolate, like a little fondue thing, I think, to impress them.
Okay. If you could have lunch with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Okay, so I'm gonna say it's gonna sound crazy, but they're not historical because they're still alive, but it's Rihanna. I really am a huge Rihanna fan.
Okay, we're running out of time. Last question. What's one thing you can't live without on the busy workday?
10 seconds left.
My phone.
Okay, perfect. I think everyone would agree that the phone is probably the most important thing. All right, perfect. Got that first segment out of the way. Let's move on. Promotion and professional growth. Why is promotion such a game changer in professional life? And we're just to give you a little insight, we're going off of Natalie's new book, The Promotion Blueprint. So, Natalie, again, why is promotion such a game changer in professional life?
Right, so it comes in on multiple levels, right? So there's one, as a person, you want to grow, and you want to learn more, you want to do more, you want to contribute more to your organization, to the world. But also, from a financial standpoint, you want to be able to do more. You want to have maybe have a family, take care of, aging parents, go traveling around the world. Like as you get older, your desires and wants kind of shift and change a little bit. And so you want to make sure your pay stays along those lines. And one of the good ways to do that is by making sure that your career is sort of progressing in a way. At least that's what I wanted to make sure part of it, as well as self-actualization, being your best self. But I really wanted the pay, and as costs start to increase, you want to get more money and be able to cover your finances. And so you don't really want to stay stagnant in your career, because if you're staying stagnant, then you're actually falling behind as things start to cost more and need more as life goes on.
Of course. And before I start badgering you and hitting you with question after question, let's give a little overview of your book, if you don't mind. Just give a little snippet of what your book is actually about, and we can go into discussing that.
Right. So it's about getting promotions. Like how do you move from one level to the next? I remember at the beginning of my career, I was really thinking about how do I get to this next level? What do I have to do? How long is this going to take? And there was really nothing out there, no one I could talk to help me figure out how do I get to the next level. I got an advice here, a little piece of advice there, but nothing that said, here's exactly what you need to do to get from one point to the other. So there's a lot of trial and error. And I talk about, some of the things that I did that, didn't work out, and how I had to learn from those things and some things other people did. And so I pulled all that knowledge together of things I've applied, and I sat back and I looked at it. I was like, hey, about every other year, I was able to get a promotion. And how I did that, and sort of the thought process. And it was intentional. It wasn't something that was happenstance. A lot of times people want to be like, when something opens up, or I hope people will notice the good work that I do. That's not the way life necessarily goes. The squeaky wheel usually gets the oil.
That's not.
So if you want to be able to move, to go forward, to not get left behind, I wanted young professionals to be able to do that, because I was a boss of people and had a lot of young professionals that didn't understand how to move, and they kept asking me, can I have a raise? Can I have a promotion? I was like, but you didn't do this, and this to get that promotion. I need you to do these other things before I can even talk about that. And so I wanted to sort of put it all in one place, where if I could sort of sit down with them for a few hours and tell them, here's what you need to do to get ahead, that you desired. Here's what I would do if I were you. And what I didn't.
No, of course. Thank you for that. Why? Just thinking about promotions in general, it can be pretty much anything. Why is that such an important thing for personal growth and self-confidence, in your opinion?
Well, one of the things that I distinctly remember is, when you're in a position and you see other people growing right around you, and you begin to wonder, why am I not growing? What do I need to do? And it becomes a little bit of a hurt against you. And I hear other people talking about, someone was promoted over me, or I trained them, and then they gave them the leadership role, right? That's a story that happens time and time again to a lot of people. So you have the knowledge, you have the capability. There's just this little piece that's missing, that's helping you get to the next level. And a lot of times people don't realize what that little piece is, because they're working so hard at the actual job that they're doing. They're not sort of expanding the way that they think. Is like, how do I work for the next level? And so just getting people to think a little bit forward.
Right. And just thinking about it, what role do you think promotions have because I talk about this all the time in all my interviews, is everything always leads back to money. Everything. No matter how much we love something, sometimes there are certain jobs, but for the most part, I mean, we have things we have to take care of. We want to be able to go on vacations every once in a while. We want to be able to buy nice stuff. What role do you think these promotions play in just earning potential in general?
Um, well, clearly the more promotions you can get, especially back to back early in your career, it kind of puts you on this track level to be able to get bigger promotions, right? And so if you're
Yes.
starting to get promotions, especially early on in your career, getting more responsibilities, getting more skills, having more experiences, then you can then apply them to other things, and so you actually get on a trajectory where you're sort of have this expectation of doing more, being able to earn more because you started sort of that pattern. And so I talk about that in the book. Like it's an ongoing thing. Like once you get that next promotion, hey, you're thinking about the one after that. Like how do I get that one? Like I'm going to succeed
Right.
in this one, but I'm also preparing for the next one. And so it's this ongoing thing where you're sort of just figuring out like how can I make sure that I get the best out of my earning potential. Because here's another reality that we don't want to talk about. Like when we get like to our later years, are we going to retire? Are we going to be capable? What if somebody gets sick? Like these are
Of
some things
course.
to think about that happen quite often to a lot of people. And so if you're able to earn, to build up, to secure yourself, to have that safety net early on, you're able to navigate those life changes that usually happen as we start to progress through life.
Right. And I got a little scenario. I was thinking about this because I really try, I do prepare my questions, but a lot of time when I have great speakers like you, it's so easy because it's you give me so much material to be able to go above and beyond. But let's say we do have a young up and comer, right? He's working at a Whole Foods
Hmm.
and he, like I said, he's starting from the bottom. He comes in, he's still in high school or maybe in maybe a freshman in college. He's ambitious. He loves Whole Foods. He wants to scale to corporate with Whole Foods, but he may lack the experience. What would you suggest would be the best way to scale all the way to corporate? Would it be more so focusing on education? Because I know your book talks a lot about the blueprint, but what would be the blueprint to be able to go from, hey, I'm pushing carts to maybe being in whoever Whole Foods corporate office is wearing a suit every day?
Right. So let's put him on CEO, right? You going from pushing carts to CEO. Let's do that.
Yes.
So
Perfect.
so it's a combination of things, and I do say this in the book, where you are getting the education, so the knowledge, you're learning
Yes.
the skills, you're learning the industry. Like what does Whole Foods do? What does Trader Joe's do? What does Publix do? You got to understand like what does it mean to be in this field. I talk about
Right.
going to conferences and sort of really understanding, but also it's a people thing. Like a lot of times, because we're in this online world, we kind of don't want to sort of have that interaction with people. But it's really about building relationships with people and
Right.
pouring into people. So when there's an opportunity, they sort of think of you, they go to you, and so it's the education, the skill set, understanding sort of the industry, and then building some really key relationships, as many as possible within the organization and also within the industry.
But if you're a person, let's say you're you come from a certain background, let's just say that, and you may have an issue with communicating exactly like your peers. Are there any tips as far as communication? Because I know that, I mean, that's a huge, huge part of it is being able to enunciate, being able to communicate your desire to be promoted. Are there any, because I know there's some resources that you put in your book that I can share on the screen a little bit later when we get to that, but are there any resources you would suggest, or would that come more through education and taking classes in college, things like that?
Right. So that does help, but at the end of the day, you got to practice. You got to get in there and to do it. And so I would definitely say if it comes to the communication thing, figure out what area you need to work on. So is it the like you said the enunciation? Then that's what you're gonna work on. Is it you really being able to communicate your ideas? Is it you being able to take what's in your head and quickly have it come out of your mouth? Even I follow communication people, and they were talking about there's a difference between like when you have an idea and then you being able to
Yes.
articulate it out of your mouth. Like that difference is something that you can practice, a skill that you can work on and practice and improve. And so understanding like, hey, here is where I struggle, where I may not be as confident in. And so I'm going to, go into that outside my comfort zone and sort of really work on that particular area. And yes, going to classes, going to school, getting degrees, they push you outside of your comfort area oftentimes to sort of develop some of these skills. But you also have to know who you are. And I talk about that, doing some self-evaluation to understand what areas you can sort of really work on. Like I tell a lot of people, I'm really introverted. They don't believe me when I say that.
It is hard to believe.
See? I so am. I will sit in a room and not say a word to nobody like all day and be perfectly happy. And so, but it's something that I realized like, hey, if I wanted, again, one of those things I learned as I sat down with myself as I was going through this promotion and said, hey, I understand I'm coming off as being guarded and sort of pulled back, and people aren't getting to know like who I am and what I'm capable of. And I did not want that. I wanted them to understand who I was and what I was capable of. And so I said, okay, I have to start. For me, it was small. So I started smiling at people. And so that's the one thing I started to do, because I was like, I can't just jump like feet first into the pool. I have to sort of wade in. And so I started doing that. And then I started saying, okay, then I'm going to start speaking. And then I'm going to start speaking up in meetings. I'm going to make sure I have one idea I'm going to give at every meeting I go to. And so it was like little progress things. Like I knew I was not the best at this. And so I had to work on this area purposefully, because I knew that it was something that could potentially hold me back.
Amazing. No, because it's very interesting. Do you have media training or no?
No.
You don't have any media training. Oh, wow.
No, I never thought about that.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just mind blowing that you're saying that you're an expert. I don't see that at all. But no, it's so important. Like even what we're doing right now, it's you actually made me think. I have ideas all the time. All the time. When I come here and I sit in front of the camera, because I don't have official media training, but the more I practice and the more I experience, the better I get. My ideas a lot of times sound better just thinking about it, but I'll come and I'll try to say it. For instance, a simple statement. So let's say I'll go and I'll sit down. I'm like, okay, I want to make a video to end this. The idea, I can hear myself saying it perfectly. Everything goes great. And then I'll sit down and I have to do like maybe 70 or 80 takes because it's not flowing cleanly. So I think, is that what you mean more so?
Yeah, it is. And so, and I'll share, and this is not my idea because I don't like taking ideas from other people. And I wish I knew his name. He's some influencer that I follow, and I do not remember his name because there's a lot of people online. But he talks about practicing that in particular. And he says to go online and do a random word generator, right? And every day to do this, and whatever word pops up, to talk about it for 1 minute. And then that helps you begin to connect words, ideas to your actual speech that you sort of give as an ongoing basis. And so these are like, again, things that you can look at saying, hey, here's where I know I need help in. Here's what I can do to sort of help me get to that point. But yeah, that's exactly kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And another thing too, going back to the beginning of your book, first of all, before we get into anything, this book, I promise you, and I do read a lot of books. This book, I think the first, 3 pages like hooked me because it's very relatable. It talks a lot about, it reminded me of when I was younger. At one point, I'm an entrepreneur now. But when I was younger, I had no idea. I was in corporate America. I worked as a corporate recruiter. I had no idea how to scale past my position. I didn't know. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know the things I should be doing. So if you are a person out there that's looking to find the blueprint to obviously scale, I mean, I know a couple of people that work at Wells Fargo, some of these huge companies, there's plenty of room.
Yeah.
But to talk about you, ambition and goals, your book obviously paints the picture. I mean, we all can see it right now. Where did that ambition come from? Is that something natural, or is that something that you had to?
So that's a really good question. I think it was it's natural, but it wanes, like in most things in life, right? It comes and it goes, whether how ambitious you were. And it really was the point I was in my life. I had just graduated grad school, starting off in a new job in a new city, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life, right? And I stepped back and said, like, at the end of it, like, what do I want it to look like? What do I want to have accomplished? What will I feel like I've lived a life well lived? And I started thinking about, okay, maybe I want to do this and that and go here. And I say this in the book, like, you got to really think far out. Like, when I graduated, I had a 50-year plan, not on it, but the mere thought of understanding that 50 years later, something was going to happen, and to start moving towards that. And like I said, you don't have to keep the plan, but the mere fact that you're saying, I'm going to think that far ahead and understand what I have to do now to get to there.
50-year plan.
I did have a 50-year plan.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is awesome, first of all.
I mean, it's not 50 now because I'm older, but...
No, I mean, obviously, because you're a mom on top of that. So it's not that you were just this ambitious person that's, headbutting through the wall. You have a family that you have to take care of. Just a quick one. How can promotions help with achieving a better work-life balance? Because a lot of times, and I'll say this really quick, I'm guilty of this as well because my wife has to bash me over the head with a bat on a constant basis. How do you achieve that work-life balance with promotions?
So here's the beauty of it. When you are the office assistant, the person, the cashier, done that, you're told when you go to work and when you're allowed to leave, what breaks you're allowed to have. If something comes up, you're worried about, can I go pick up my sick kid? And so it becomes this sort of anxiety thing where your time is not dictated by you. Let them know how much money you can earn to help navigate sort of the things in life. And so as you move up the ladder, your time becomes a little bit more of your own sort of saying what I do with it. And so you're able to say, hey, I know I have this project due. I can do the project here in the office. I can work at home. I can sort of think about it in the shower. Like, I just have to complete this task or complete this project or meet these goals. And it shifts from it being your time that's the focus to your skill set, and producing is being the focus. And so when you get your time back to say, I can utilize it how I want, and this is when you can start getting smart about it. Like, how do I work smarter? How do I figure out how to sort of do X, Y, and Z? And I'll tell you this because I'm not working in these places anymore. Like, some of these places I went to Fiverr, like, I need this done. Like, I don't have time to do it, but it's going to help me to look better in what I'm doing. And they'll sort of create this thing, and I'll be able to implement it into what I'm doing, and then be able to produce something good. And I didn't have to spend 10 hours on that. Plus, I had the money to do that and be able to reallocate things. And so that's what getting a promotion does. It gives you the money. It gives you the time to be able to really navigate your world the way you want to. I can now have people shop for groceries for me. Like, that was a thing that, in the pandemic sort of opened our eyes to. Like, we can now do it. Exactly. But you had to have the finances to pay a little extra for every item and then the delivery of it in order to do that. And so these are the things that promotions allow you to do, where you can start to reclaim some of your time. Because honestly, time is the one thing nobody can get back, right?
No.
You can earn more money. You can, earn more promotions, all this other stuff you can rebuild. Even some relationships you can rebuild, right? But you cannot get back time at all. And so that is the one thing that you need to try and protect as much as possible.
Of course. I mean, time, if you ask any billionaire, trillionaire, multimillionaire, someone that's, doesn't have a lot of money, time is the one thing that we all wish that we can buy, and we can't. It's not for sale. So definitely. Another thing. So in your book, you talk a lot about directing strong ambition. What do you think are ways that not only directing that strong ambition, but how do you have that benefit your personal and your business life?
So, and I say this, especially like there's like a not bright side of ambition. I'm not going to pretend like it's all.
I know.
It's not all sunshine. And so you have to be very careful about it. I talk about values a lot in the book, because you really do have to make sure that you're directing your values into that ambition, where you're aligned with it. So it's not just blind ambition. I gotta get ahead no matter what. It's like, like, yes, I'm trying to move ahead. I'm trying to get better, but I'm not going to lose myself in the process. And a lot of, we see politicians in the news and sports and music people that, lost themselves along the way. And so when you are able to move ahead with your values, it really does benefit you in feeling comfortable in being in that position, that you understood that you didn't have to compromise. This is who you are. And you're able to give more of yourself to what you're doing.
Right on the nail. And I think another thing too, more resources. We need more resources. I know I'm a person, if you don't stop me, not so much now, but in the past, if you don't stop me because I have such strong ambition and it's not, or it wasn't guided correctly, I'll work 21 hours and I feel like I've only worked 6 hours.
Right.
I mean, I literally would see the sun come up and the sun is down and I see the sun come up again. And that's more so in my past when I was a musician. But resources. Another thing, where do you find the resources, the correct resources that could really help for people that do have this strong ambition? Where do you find those at?
So they're in a few places, and I kind of warn against just randomly searching online. As much as online, as helpful as it is, sometimes it can be a stumbling block because there's so much out there. You have to sift through what's good and what's not so good. And so I tell people, like, definitely go to certain people based off of, and I used to teach critical thinking, like the source is a real thing. Like, who is this person that is saying these things? Like, have they done it? Do they have the education, the experience? Like, who is this person saying? Don't just go to a website and be like, oh, they said it on this website, so it must be fact. Who is the person behind that website saying it? What is their motivation? I would say go to very reputable places. I always go to universities. I love academic journals because it's something that are people who are trained in this area, and then they have their colleagues telling them, like, hey, this is a good idea or this is not a good idea, and they are either allowing it in the journal or not. And so I like academic journals a lot when it comes to sort of searching for ideas, people who have made it in your field. And so following people that have gotten to the point you're trying to get to, I think is a strong resource. Professional organizations who are sort of centered in your field, they are great sources of information for you to figure out exactly what you need to know, what you need to do in order to be successful in that field. Right.
And I think what we said from the beginning, I have to remind myself, and I'm bringing myself back in here again, because we're all learning. Everybody's learning. We're all trying to get better every day. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Not everyone could be, Rihanna. Not everyone could be anyone. So I think this subject and this topic that we're talking about is so important because there's billions of people that go to work every day. Not everyone hates their job, and I think that's like the number one thing. In the video earlier that was played, you said in your TEDx, a lot of it is really on the employers as well, making sure that the employees feel valued, to want to strive to get those promotions. But, on the other hand, like I said, this talk is such an important talk for that reason. I had no idea there was a blueprint. For myself, I relied typically on my own natural ability. So I think it's really amazing. But let's move on. Navigating organizational culture. This is a good one. This is a really good one. So in your book, you mentioned navigating the workplace and understanding its culture. What does organizational culture mean to you?
So it's how people behave at work, really. And a lot of times we'll go to work and sort of, thinking our job is to do our job, right? Whatever the task is that we've been sort of given, and we'll sort of focus on that. But you got to understand, you don't do it in a bubble. There are other people around you, and it's just you need to make sure that you're really understanding how do other people work, how do they deal with each other, in order for you to get the best out of them so that you can do your job. Like, people can either really help you or they can be stumbling blocks, right? And so you got to understand that in some organizations, a lot of people are helpful. They're trying to help you. In some of them, there are a lot of people that have been stumbling blocks. And the problem is that when there are a lot of people that are stumbling blocks, they're teaching new people to be stumbling blocks. And so it becomes this sort of reinforcing behavior that happens within an organization. And so it's how people are behaving in an organization that creates this environment, this vibe, this way of doing things within an organization. So you got to understand, how does your organization do things?
Yeah, it's when people say you have to play the game,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it is. What we're talking about is we're actually making it. That's what the game is. It's learning.
Yeah.
Like my next question: why do you think understanding the culture of your workplace is so important when aiming for success? Like I love this topic. I love this topic because it's literally like it's the game. Every day we play the game every day. We try to play. Sometimes we lose. Sometimes we win. So that's why I think it's amazing. But in your opinion, let me stop talking. Why do you think understanding the culture of your workplace is so important when aiming for success?
Right. And a lot of people don't like that term, the game, right? It has a
No, they don't.
I know.
No.
And it's not meant as a bad thing, right?
Yes.
It's just understanding that, hey, here's the environment that you're in. Here's how big. Like, if you're in water, you swim. You don't just sink. Like, there's stuff you do when you're in different environments. And so,
Yes.
when you're in a certain environment, you have to understand, how do I do this to move ahead? I remember one organization I was with. Like, I used to write grants and get millions of dollars in. Couldn't spend like any of it. Like, they were like, no, you can't spend it, right? It's like, I just got like $1 million. Why can't I spend like some of this money on things that I think our department needs to move forward, right? And so I had to stop and think, okay, how do I work with these people to get to the goal of why I initially got the $1 million, what I said I was going to do, in order to spend the money to do what I said I was going to do. And so you have to understand you got to understand people. It's really about understanding people, understanding who they are, why they do what they do, and then sort of incorporating that into what you honestly need for them to move forward. Like, if you are really, and this person in particular was really focused on risk management and wanted to make sure that there were no risks. And I understood that's who she was as a person. And so
Right.
I needed her to, let go of the purse strings, because she was over the money. She was CFO. So that I could spend what I needed to do. And so I had to, again, come to her with a risk mindset of, here's why we need to do it. Here's how we're going to protect ourselves. Here's how it's not going to cause any issues if I was going to sort of do what needed to be done in my role. And then also at that point, preparing for the next role, because if I wasn't successful in this current role, how can I prepare for the promotion? Like, if I'm trying to get a promotion and I'm not doing what I say I'm going to do in my current role, I'm not going to be able to move to the next level. And so I need to make sure that everyone is sort of supporting me as best as possible so that I can move to the next level. And it's, again, and I say this is not because it sounds like, oh, you're using people. Like, no, because I always say in there, like, you pour into people way more than you ever ask. Like,
Yes.
I purposely pour into people more. What do you need? What can I give? What is this? And so that we understand that this is a reciprocal relationship. It's professional, but it's still a reciprocal relationship. It's not just me asking of you all the time. It's me trying to give as my number one thought process. And then when time comes, if something pops up, now I can feel like I can ask you for a favor because we have this back and forth relationship.
Right. Yeah, and it's so funny just thinking about the mindset when it comes behind to actually getting that promotion. How do you know how to feel what your company culture is? Like, what are because I think about myself when I'm in a company or even thinking about Chick-fil-A. Let's just take Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a great example. My little
Okay.
brother works for Chick-fil-A. He's in college. He loves it. He comes home with a smile on his face.
Aw.
So I don't think it's an act where you go and you work for Chick-fil-A. I think that's what they actually are. What are some practical tips, no matter what job you're working at, to feel out your company's culture and take advantage of that?
Right. So one thing is to look at how they treat their employees. Like you said, if he's coming home with a smile, that means somebody's doing something right.
Free food.
Exactly.
For a college student.
Grumbling and complaining and gossiping, then that's telling you something else, right?
Yes.
So that feeling. Are people being, given education, development? Are they being poured into as a part of the organization? Like, I care about you, so I'm going to make sure you continue to learn and grow. Are we really sort of stopping to think like, hey, in this organization, are people actually being promoted? Or is my promotion, like, if no one's been promoted for the past, 5-10 years, then it's like, oh, maybe this organization is kind of stagnant. And so you can sort of look at how things are being done in the organization to determine whether or not this is a sort of a company that has that sort of growth mindset. They also have to be growing, right? They have to have a need for someone to move up. There was this one company that someone multiple people worked there 25, 30 years. Like they had badges on the doors. Like, I was like, okay, like, this is clearly the company to work at. Like, that's a sign. But
Right.
there were places for people to grow and to promote, and they cared about that happening. And so you got to stop and say, is this organization, is the field growing, right? If the field's not growing, then it's maybe a little harder for the organization to grow. And if they can't grow, they can't bring in more money. They can't bring in more money. They can't give you more money. So it's like these things that you can sort of look at to understand whether or not this is a good environment for you to be able to have the growth that you're looking for within your career.
That is actually a great point. When you think about smaller companies that are more profit driven, and it is about the bottom dollar because they're trying to drive sales. That employee development does get lost in the shuffle because it's, at the end of the day, we are human and we get stagnant. We do want promotions. We do want to be appreciated. It's completely important, specifically for smaller businesses as well, that may not prioritize or have the process in there to be able to promote, from within. Or that's something that I literally just thought about that. That's a excellent point. Excellent point.
And for
leveraging, I'm sorry, go.
I just want to add that for small businesses in particular,
Yes.
like you said, there may not be the time and the money to pour into the learning and development of employees, but there is the connection of coaching, where you're sort of pouring into individual employees and helping them grow. And so if you don't have the money to send somebody to a conference, that would be helpful, but you have the time to sit down and talk to them about your career path that you've been on, this process that you're working on, sort of helping them, opening up sort of like how you do things, helping them to sort of navigate what they're going through. And so although there may not be, and again, for entrepreneurs too, like if you don't have the time and the money to do the learning and development, like the big companies do it, you can always coach. Like, you as a CEO, you can coach one or two of your employees to help them be better. And when they see that you're pouring into them, that you care about them, there's that loyalty, that employee engagement that's going to have a return, that the same thing the learning and development may do in a larger company.
It's so funny. Right. And I'm sure you know this. I think about that term. I'm a CEO, but I'm a chief everything officer.
Yeah.
So it's two. You have chief executive officer and you have chief everything officer. When I see chief everything officer, you have to, specifically in a smaller company, mine is a growing company. I have, a few employees, but we're growing together. We're learning about each other. I have to be everything. I can't just, for the sake of saying this, I can't be in my corner office pretending that my company, has 3,000 people and that they're going to be taken care of. So if I am a plumbing company, if I'm a roofing company and I have a small team, it's important, like you just said, provide coaching. If you don't have the money and funds are low, get in there, or maybe find a friend that you know that could come in and talk to your team. That's a great, excellent point.
And it doesn't
I'm
have to
actually gonna
be
use for
a
myself.
lot, because when you say coaching,
Yeah.
you're like about this big program. Like, no, I
Right.
I met with my team once a month, everybody, and the first 5-10 minutes was us dedicated to coaching and figuring out who you are, how can I help you, how can I pour into you, sort of aspect. And so it doesn't have to be this big complex thing. You know, you meet with them once a month on a regular ongoing basis to see what they're doing, how they're doing it, you know, how can I help you? And then take 5 minutes out of that 1 hour meeting monthly and make that dedicated to you coaching and helping them become better.
Excellent. Let's move on. Leveraging organizational dynamics. This is another interesting topic. Who are the key players? This is part of that word we talked about, the game. But you have to know who are the key. If you're playing football, if you're playing basketball, you have to know who are the key players that you need to worry about. Who are the key players within an organization that help you advance, and how do you identify them?
Usually, and it's not always by title. That's the thing people got to understand. Because when it comes to power, you can get power, and this is really about key players. Is about power within an organization. And you can get power from a number of ways. You can get power by title. You can get power by having control over certain things, so money, schedules of people,
Right.
and you can also get power over knowledge. There are some people who have worked in an organization for 20, 30, 40 years, and they know everything, right? And so nobody messes with them because they know everything. Like, you can mess with them if you want to and see how they turn out for you, right? Because they know everything. And so you got to understand that you got to figure out who has that knowledge, who has control over certain things, to understand who these key players are in an organization. Yes, the CEO, yes, the director, but there are other people there that are just as powerful, have just as much knowledge, just as much control over things as some of the top people do.
You know what's so funny about what you just said? You're right. It's not the obvious one. It's actually like the janitor. Usually the janitor has been around. He or she has been around and has seen and touched everything. Or if you think about it, going back even before the Renaissance era with aristocrats, the housekeepers know where, and I'm sorry to say this, but I have to say it, they know where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
And, in figurative terms. So it's they know everything about whoever they dress them. They make their food. They hear the conversations. So you're absolutely right. So janitor, Tom or Brittany, whoever it is, may have been mopping and cleaning one night inside when the board is having a meeting. And may hear, you have to learn how to leverage other people other than just the obvious people. I think that's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
Yep. What strategies?
They look out for you too. So that's another thing.
Oh, they definitely will.
Do.
If you take care of them. You got to take care of them, though. Got to make sure you take care of them. What strategies do you suggest for successfully navigating organizational challenges and reaching the top? This is a good one.
So be aware. One thing I think we sometimes do is, in the morning we kind of come in with our stuff, sort of fumbling around, thinking about our day, what do I have to do, looking at emails.
On a Monday.
Focus on your work. Like, look up, look around, understand what's going on. Like, you gotta be aware of people, be aware of how they're moving, why they're moving. If you don't know, like, talk to them. Like, talk to people. I know it's a thing that people aren't doing so much anymore, but the water cooler was there for a reason. Like, people got together, they chatted, they got to know each other, they got to know people's kids and how things are going on in their life, and it builds a level of trust that allows you to sort of wade into other areas that's necessary. So just be aware of people, be aware of what's going on. If someone's not looking as happy or chipper as you should notice that. Like, and you should inquire, like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Be aware of what's happening around you.
Gotta be aware. Always. Always, always, always. Let's switch a little bit because we covered, culture, we covered work-life balance, work-life synergy. I love that term. Work-life synergy.
Yes.
Obviously, you emphasize work-life synergy when you buy the book. You emphasize work-life synergy. What are some simple daily practices that help us maintain that balance while chasing promotions?
Right. So, one of the things that we've learned because of COVID, like there's some bleed between work and our daily lives, right? Some people say, I want to keep it solely separate, like we're not getting it together at all. And I say that's double the work for me, honestly. Like I don't want it to be double the work. I want to try and use something at home to help work and work to help home. Like if that can help out, then both of them benefit. I know when I was in, so I used to be in the STEM education field, and so one of the things that I did is that I had to meet people in the community when it came to STEM. And so here's my son. Hey, we're going to this STEM event so I can meet this person, so you can have a good time and learn. We're going to have your birthday party at the STEM museum so we can figure out what does this museum have to offer that we can sort of bring back to the university. And so it was like really figuring out how do I help each aspect sort of the other. Like it does not have to be completely separate, and it does not have to be, and neither one of them suffered because of it. I think people feel like my home life is going to suffer if I bring work into it. My work is going to suffer if I bring home into it, and that's not the case. Like my kids were at work, we were playing around. I had the job to do that. I know everybody's job don't let you do that, but I don't take jobs unless they understand that. Has a cot in my office. Like it was like, hey, I am a whole person. My kids are a part of it. They have this aspect of it. And it's going to come and impact this. And again, it has to be the right environment to say that's okay, because that was my structure in life. But I think if you understand and try and really sit and think, how can my work help my home? How can home help work? And if you can stop and think about it, there's probably something that they can help each other with, and then go ahead and make that connection. So there can be a synergy between work and home.
Yes. Oh, of course. Thank you so much. Obviously, culture, perfect way to end it, because that's probably one of the most important things about joining the company is, besides the money, I mean, you can make $300,000 a year and be miserable because the culture is just bad. So I think that probably is one of the most important things, at least for me, I look for and I try to focus on with my own company. Natalie, thank you. Now let's discuss a little bit about your book.
Okay.
How did you find the time to write this book? How did you, I mean, you do everything. How did you find the time with two boys to write a book?
I mean, usually at night, right? And someone gave me a great idea, and it's not, again, I love giving people credit. She was like, you find the time in between. And so I'm sitting waiting for my youngest to have gymnastics, and so I'm working on the book. I'm at the mechanic having something done to the car. I'm working on the book while I'm waiting. I mean, there are pockets of time when you're kind of like not doing anything. My son takes too long to come out of school. Like I'm sitting there working on the book. Like there are minutes here and there that pop up that you can take advantage of and don't just sort of slip by. But you have to be, again, very focused on getting it done and making sure that you utilize those times. Because it's easy to, scroll, and easy to want to listen to music and do these other things that are entertaining. And not that I didn't entertain myself during the time of writing the book, but I understood that I wanted to get this done. And so I just found the pockets of time to make sure that I could finish it.
But I think that's one of the hardest things also, is not everybody can do that. And I think that is another topic of discussion, is it comes down to ambition. And like you said, targeted ambition. and knowing how to target that ambition. Sometimes you can be ambitious and say, hey, I want to write a book. Like they call it shiny toy syndrome.
Yes.
When I want to write a book, I want to, go to Las Vegas and work as a casino, work in the casino. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then you never really finish anything. So I think it's incredible that you have the wherewithal to consistently chip away at it. And I think that's another thing that needs to be talked about a lot more for ambitious people that are listening to this podcast right now. Is it's okay to go out and want to be a like you. I'll ask you this question really quick, but there's so many people that aspire to public speak and be, obviously participate in TEDx or TED Talks and do these things, but you have to focus on that one thing and do it well and finish. So I for sure commend you for that. Another question. This is for me.
Okay.
Maybe just for me. It could be for some other people, but for me, for sure. I watched your TEDx. I heard about the she section. Was it she session?
Yes.
I had no idea what that meant. I had to go research that word. I'm like, okay. But thinking about it, I have a friend. Her name is Cindy Metzler. You might know her, actually. Cindy Metzler, she leads the TEDx here in Boca. And I always commend people that can just go up and recite, be genuine, and public speak. I'll link that description as well for her speech. I think it was a great speech. It's nerve-wracking. Where did you learn to not only recite, but your public speaking skills are great. Where did you learn how to speak fluently in front of a camera and learn these little things? Where did you learn that at?
So I want to say thank you because I don't feel like I come off.
I mean, because you live with yourself. None of us ever feel that we're good enough.
Okay,
we're faking it.
That. Thank you so much.
We're all faking it.
Yeah, so honestly, it's practice, and I talk about that in the book. Like I'm like, sometimes you just gotta go in the mirror and practice. I used to video myself and say, I don't know if I like the way this goes. I'm stumbling over this. I missed this point. And so it's really, I would love to be like, it's just this natural thing. I just get like, no. It's practice. You gotta practice and put the time and the energy, especially, because I've done different TEDx in different cities and helped other people get them. Like they get you to practice. Like it's not, people don't just get up on stage and say, hey, go. No, these people are practicing, months to be able to get into this moment and to be able to articulate their idea in a way that actually gets people to understand it and to hopefully convince some people that it's a good idea worth spreading, right? Ideas worth spreading.
Right. But if I'm an ambitious person, right, and I'm thinking about writing a book or I just wrote a book and I want to start, obviously, buy the book, but I obviously want to start promoting my book. I want to get opportunities to be a TEDx speaker. How did that come along? Did they approach you? Did you go after it? How did that happen?
No.
I mean, you were also in Miami, I think Miami Vogue magazine, I believe too.
Yeah. And so again, you have to go, and I talk about this as well, like you have to go out and like look for these things. I had some ideas I was thinking about, and I went and I looked for the first TEDx. The opportunity came to me. I was like, do I have an idea that I want to share? And so I was like, I was working in STEM, and so I sort of shared that particular idea. But then I realized like, hey, they put out, in particularly TEDx, calls to hear your ideas and see whether or not it'll be in line with sort of whatever the theme is for that particular TEDx. And so, again, looking for the calls, having your ideas ready. I've worked with a few people to help them get their ideas aligned, because we have ideas, but it doesn't necessarily convey as a novel idea. And so I sort of help them sort of say, hey, here's a way so that it can actually be accepted as a novel idea. Go out there, look and see, is it a novel idea or is it something everyone's sort of saying and you're saying it too and you don't realize it? And so there's just different ways to sort of get into, especially that TEDx space. But you got to go out there, you got to look, you got to, and this is where being a part of professional organizations help. They sort of send you opportunities, and so you're not always scrounging, looking for things, and being part of different mail lists where they're sending you these opportunities on a regular basis.
Amazing. 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 I think that your accomplishments, first of all, are understated. I think the things that you're doing, that you have planned, I'm sure. What do you have planned? What's coming up?
Okay, so so a lot of the work that I'm doing and have been doing has been around some DEI, and I've done some DEI training, and as you know, that is shifting in our current
What is DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's been shifting in our current political environment. And so one of the things I was working on was a thing on DEI committees. But as I'm sort of sitting here, I'm feeling like there's a death that's coming to DEI, and it's transforming, not a death, but it's transforming into something else of how do we help organizations really understand, how do we get people to feel like they are valued, like they're wanted, so that they can be their full and best selves within an organization, which is the underpinning of DEI, which it really was. And it's sort of either poor practice or poor sort of publicity has spiraled into being thought of as something else. So helping people to get back to, hey, this is really about helping everybody in an organization feel like they're a part of, so that they can give their best selves. And so I'm going to be working on that in the coming year, besides doing the training that I do.
Any other book signings or anything that we need to let people know about coming up?
I have not done any book signing. My friend says I need to.
For sure. For sure.
And so I might be putting some of those on the schedule. I think the best way to know is to stay, go on LinkedIn. That's probably where I'm most active. Sort of the page for the company GladEd. And so I'll post things that we do with different organizations. Like I work with the Children's Trust, United Way, some other organizations, some larger organizations, national ones. And so I'll put updates up there. But if I'm going to be doing something, I'll put the dates of when that's coming up on there.
All right, Natalie. So what I do is everything about Natalie, you can look right in the description. You can find out information about the book. You can find information about the promotion blueprint. You can find information about her initiatives or what she's doing with DEI if you never heard of that. Also, if you just had a question, message her, ask her. She's an open book. She's been great to me. I've had so much fun speaking to you. I have so much fun researching you. I've learned a lot about the She Session. Did I say it right?
You did.
She Session.
She Session.
Yes. It's been a pleasure. Anything else you want to add before we go?
Just make the world a better place. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
Tell people.
Yes. That's always a great statement to make. Make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can purchase the promotion blueprint on Amazon and wherever you get your books at. Natalie, are there anything else we should know about the book as far as purchase or anything?
No, if you go to the link that you're going to put up there, it's going to take you to a place where you can get it. But really, no, that's about it. Purchase.
Natalie, thank you so much. This has been DeAndre French with Industry Insiders. I promise you, I'm trying. Next week, we're going to be live, so stay tuned. Also, you also could, if you look down in the description, you'll be able to see a link to our new academy, Kreation Avenue Academy, on our mission to help 1 million students globally. If you wanted to donate to that, I think it's a great initiative that we're doing. We're actually channeling and entering public schools and giving some of the children in public schools a private school education. There's going to be boat trips and all type of access that I didn't get when I was a child. So if you're interested in learning more about that, or if you do work at a school and you're thinking about getting your school signed up, we have a couple of slots left. Let us know. This has been DeAndre French with Industry Insiders, Kreation Avenue TV, out. Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here for all of our latest shows, updates, and any pertinent information. I like that word. Pertinent information that you might need. Choose your path.